who couldn't make it here. All right, so the best way to study and prepare for the exam is to make sure you review your homework, because the exam is going to look a lot like your homework on Wiley Plus. Not the quiz type of homework where you're going to get a question and answer, and it's there's practice questions that are basically true, false, and multiple choice, right? Those types of questions are a lot less likely to be on the test. What's more likely to be on the test are questions from your homework that actually have exercises to do, all right? So I just opened up Chapter 1, Objective 3A homework for the income statement and the retained earnings statement. I'm going to press on exercise 4 just so you can see that this particular exercise gave us a bunch of information regarding a company, and first asked us to prepare an income statement for that company. And then once the income statement was done, to prepare a retained earnings statement for that company. So these are the things I would review for the test, because the test is very heavily slanted toward financial statements and the accounts. The wonderful thing here is now that these homework assignments are closed, I release the answers to them. So if you click on the show answer, this will tell you exactly what the income statement for that company should look like. Okay. And so this would be important to know, because what you're going to see on the test is very likely going to look like these types of exercises. So studying this and making sure you have, maybe you want a picture of it, maybe you want a copy of it, but having this in front of you as you're taking the test as a resource is a good idea. Okay, so you want as many resources in front of you as possible. And again, the retained earnings statement is provided here, also with the answer key. The exam may only have 10 or 12 questions, but they're going to be overwhelmingly they're going to be exercises that will require you to take your time to do this type of stuff. So again, here's the retained earnings statement for this. Understanding how it's all set up, and the show answer buttons are available. And here, again, making sure you understand how all of this is set up is extremely important, The difference between your homework, and I'm going to answer Giovanni's question right now, the difference between your homework and the exams is your homework you could have 3 times, right? You could go and try it 3 times to get the correct answer. On an exam, you only have 1 time to do it. The other thing too is homework assignments have no time limit. And of course, that's different than the exam, which is going to have a time limit. But the time limit is going to be 3 hours. It should take most people 1.5, between 1 and 2 hours, I'll say, to finish the exam. Not because it's super difficult, it's just because putting together income statements and retained earnings statements and balance sheets take time. It's not very difficult. So again, here on exercise 1.5 from your homework, you'll see that you have to do an income statement for this company. And again, the show answer button is provided for you. Make sure you study this. Make sure you have copies of this available to you so you can see what an income statement looks like, a couple of different examples of income statements. And then here's a retained earnings statement again. I would make sure I know how to do this, because one thing that's very common is I use a lot of similar problems to your homework, okay, on these tests. So the homework that you had already due last time, which was on the balance sheet, classified balance sheet, Again, there's some brief exercises and do it exercises that basically now have the answer key available to you. And so I would go ahead and make sure I had copies of all of this. Okay. There may be, so the bulk of the test is going to be on the financial statements. There may be a question or two on some of the other aspects that you learned. So remember, in chapter 1, there's the forms of business and the advantages and disadvantages of each of the forms of business. Then there's objective 2 was the principal activities that businesses do, operating activities, investing activities, financing activities. And objective 3 is the financial statements. I would say objective 3 is going to dominate the questions. There may be a question on the other 2 objectives, but it's not going to be a major part of the test. The major part of the test is going to be the financial statements. Same thing in chapter 2. In chapter 2, we spent almost all of our time on learning objective 1, because learning objective 1 is the classified balance sheet. And that just takes time to do. And it's a very, very important financial statement. And you have to know how to do it. You have to understand where the accounts are and where they fall on the balance sheet in order to do those. And so again, here, I would spend a lot of time in chapter 2, probably on the first objective. Now, could there be a question on ratios? Yes. Is it going to dominate the test? No. So I think that, that's something to really think about. Now here is a sample from your first homework about, it's a do it review exercise on the asset section of the balance sheet. The reason this was set up this way is because the asset section, of course, is classified into 4 parts. So understanding how those parts work and then how the accounts line up are very, very important. Okay, so I would definitely have examples of of balance sheets and income statements available. And again, now that this is over, right? Now that these homework assignments are over, meaning the due date has been reached, the answer buttons will show how to do it. Okay, the answer buttons are available, and that's what I would do to review it. Right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have the show answer thing.
You should have the ones that have been closed. Everyone should have that. If a homework assignment is still open, it won't have the, so for example, when you look at your homework, notice that this homework, learning objective 2 homework for chapter 2 is still open until tonight. So there's not going to be an answer button to that until tonight when it closes.
Right.
All of the ones that have been closed, the answer button should be there. Because I clicked it, so if I see it, and I'm on a student view, I'm not on my instructor's view, I'm using my student account here to show you. So your account should look just like my account for the student side. All right. So just check. Again, the review homework, I actually gave you until tomorrow night to complete. Once this is complete, again, since it's open, it's not going to be, and again, you have up to 3 times to do it. The solution is going to be shown after, after it's done. So exercise 2.3 gives you a partial balance sheet. After this is done, you'll see the show solution button. What I would be sure to do is to make sure you know how to do this. So exercise 2.5, which is a complete balance sheet. Total, the assets in the specific order they're supposed to, liabilities and stockholders' equity. Remember, they have to balance. I would make sure, if I were you, okay, you know how to do this. The same thing with the problem. Okay, the problem, is just a very, usually when it says problem on it, it's usually just a long exercise. I will tell you your exams, the exam that you're going to be getting has 2 problems on it, okay? It has, I think, 4 or 5 brief exercises. Those are very brief. They should take you 3 to 5 minutes to complete. Then there are another 3 or 4 regular, what we just call exercises. So those should take you 5-10 minutes to complete each. And then there are 2 problems. Problems are long. See, this is problem 2-1A. It has a whole list of accounts. You have to put them in the order they're supposed to be in, to balance. So that's really important to understand that there are some differences. Let me see if the exam has been released. Okay, so here's the exam. I'll bring you into the exam so you can see what the exam is like. I'm going to go ahead and click go here. So here's your exam. There are 3 brief exercises to start. Those should take you roughly about 3, 4, or 5 minutes each. They should go quickly. Then you have a series of exercises. There are 5 exercises. Each of these exercises, I would say, should take you 5 to 10 minutes each. So that's somewhere between 25 minutes and 50 minutes. There's a matching question. And there are 2 problems. These problems are probably going to take you at least a half an hour each. And these problems are basically prepare the income statement, retained earnings statement, and balance sheet. So when you see problems like this on an exam, it's the summary. Did you pay attention to how all this was done, and do it? Okay. So this is your exam, and you have up to 3 hours. Yeah, I gave you 3 hours to complete it. Okay. And so that's the only difference. So again, even if it took you the longest, 5, 10, 15 minutes, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So 60 and 15 is an hour and 15 minutes. 2 hours, 3 hours. So even if it took you the longest amount of time to do these, 180 minutes should still be enough time to complete it. Okay. Most of you are going to get through these relatively quickly, so you can spend your time on the problems, because the problems will give you a run for your money. You're going to be putting some time into these problems. So again, make sure you're completing all of this in good time, and leave the remaining time open so you can focus on the problems. And the problems are very similar. Income statement, retained earnings statement, balance sheet. Okay. That is due before we meet next week. Our next class is Tuesday, October the 6th here at 2 o'clock. The exam closes by noon. So you have to pick any 3-hour period you have after, so you got tonight to think about it, particularly if these other ones are done. Tomorrow, which is Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, all day Monday, and part of the day on Tuesday. Okay. All you need to do is pick out a 3-hour time block in that time where you can sit and do the test. I wouldn't do the test without a book with you, and I wouldn't do the test without some of that homework that you should have studied the homework. If you didn't study that homework, or even printed it out, or took a picture of it for your record, I think the test is going to give you a little bit more of a harder time than it needs to. It doesn't need to be, just because it's called a test, it's simply more homework. It looks exactly like your homework because it is. It's homework questions, but they're organized a little bit more, and they're time limited. But it's homework, same thing. So I wouldn't look at a test as anything different than just homework that's timed, basically. So before you sit down and do it, make sure you have a review done of all of these things. And I think you'll be in pretty good shape if you do that. All right, so I'll bring us back to the main screen here and ask if there's any other questions on that.